Alright, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah. I've got an oracle cards reading here, no tarot today. All the messages posted on here are collective, they're kind of timeless. There is some information in the description box that is just helpful to have read through before or after you've watched any of these videos, and especially if you are unfamiliar with tarot and oracle, the world of. Okay, so I've got another deck out with me for the sake of clarification, which I think I will do, but sometimes it's, well, it just gives you more information. It doesn't necessarily clarify the information you've already got. So I'm just gonna wait and see. I've had a bit of a shuffle. So this is an old a runes deck is this, and it is a deck that I'm pretty sure I don't understand. Can't pronounce any of the old English of the runes. Doesn't matter. So I've had a bit of a shuffle, and there is this Theo. It's number 11, is it? No, it's not, it's number 1. It's wealth, livestock. And I've had a bit of a read through. The question at the bottom of the text is, what does wealth conquer? So that's interesting. I'm not ready to take cards yet. I'm just gonna pop those back in. Okay. Yeah. Pull from these later. Ignite, water meadow. Right, okay, let's put that. Right. So, oh, not sure where to start. Where do I start with this one? Okay. It's the spring equinox today. It's the spring equinox today. That's where I'll start. So I'm filming this on Thursday, the 20th of March, in the UK, so Northern Hemisphere, spring equinox at 9:01 AM this morning. So there is something about that. The ignite, I want to say awaken as well, spring, awakening. There's something really just in terms of seasons and natural cycles, spring, right, new beginnings, birth, a sort of a sense of things coming to life, motion after the kind of decay and restful season of winter. There's a suggestion as well, isn't there, like of movement as well, I think, springing forward and all that. And because of this first energy that's out here, which I was feeling a bit sort of ambivalent about, or there was this sense of ambiguity as well, which could be because this energy's role here is communicating different things, like different kind of different individuals, different kind of angles, different threads, something like that. So the ambiguity kind of comes from that, because it's got a few different things to communicate. But there was also that as well, that idea of ambivalence, about having like mixed feelings, being a bit uncertain about about something. So there's also something about music. There's something about music. When I was in the supermarket the other day, quite possibly the day that I pulled these cards, there was a song on, and it was that Power of Love tune by Huey Lewis and the News, that I recognised, really familiar from my childhood, because my mum had this double cassette film soundtrack compilation that she used to put on in the car all the time, and it was on there. But then, so I was like, oh, what fucking film was it in? What film was it? And it was in Back to the Future. It was in the original Back to the Future film. And so there's that, Back to the Future, the Power of Love. But the thing with that song, that I kind of knew it was part of this message, or it was relevant to this message in some ways, because it just was relentlessly kind of in my head in quite a frustrating kind of way, until I just sort of embraced Huey Lewis and the News and have included him in my interpretation. That song specifically, the lyrics of, when songs come like that in readings, it's always very worthwhile checking out the lyrics, because there will always be something in the lyrics. That's why the songs are messages, why the songs are communicating a lot anyway. So that was the main song. There are actually a couple of others. So just like generally the idea of music, resonance, vibration, drums, all sorts of stuff like that. Okay. So before I started doing any meditations, and I think maybe why I felt inclined to get a secondary deck out for clarification purposes, which I sometimes do, is because before I started doing any meditations and getting into any kind of deeper, there was just a kind of fairly apparent indication of a message that was apparent to me, because it was a really consistent thread. It was a recurring component of a series of messages that I used to post online. I think I started posting them at the end of 2022. Interestingly, the first message of which was about perseverance. It was about perseverance. So we'll see why I'm mentioning that here. But actually that recurrent thread that I'm talking about, until I stopped doing those readings at the beginning of 2024, so over like 14-16 months, it was just reiterated again and again and again about the importance of following the heart. And it really did. It really came up a lot. But I absolutely admit that I got to a point where I felt that it was quite tautological. It's like, it's coming up so much, you know. The messages were varied and there was a lot else besides, but it really did come up a lot. This follow your heart, the importance of it, the urging to follow the heart. And I think I reached a point where I felt a bit silly. I felt a bit silly communicating that, because I have some awareness, you know, that it's maybe quite a well-used or an overused phrase. So in that respect, you know, it could kind of lose its meaning when people hear it, you know, because they've just heard it quite a lot. But you know, it's like, oh, it sounds a bit cheesy, doesn't it? You know, saying like, follow your heart, follow your heart. And I'd started to feel that way about it over time, because that was what I was being asked to communicate so often, right? Which I suppose I felt a little bit foolish after a point. So it's come up here again, and I could feel myself like, oh, that's follow your heart message again. Because regardless of how I feel about communicating that, it's always valid. It's just always valid. It's always applicable, right? We can do it in one situation at one point in time, and then, you know, we have to do it again, and for every time we have to do it, there's like different challenges, different things, yeah. So it gets easier to do it in some ways, but remains hard. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, for as well-worn a phrase as it might be, as cheesy as it might sound. It's not an easy thing to do. That's why it was coming through in the readings, and why there was such an urging to do it. So I have been taken back to those old readings, and there was one specifically that I was thinking of, and it was actually the last one that I did in that particular series. So I've gone back to it, and I'm just gonna reread it, because I think that's what I'm being asked to do. Not shy away from communicating it, yeah. Not kind of cringe away from it. Okay. So I used to write the interpretations back then as well. I used to write them, so lots of text. Okay. So, ... I wrote in the interpretations very often, follow the heart. This message came through so much that it had me thinking about what it meant, and so then eventually another way to express it. But the heart message is very important. If following the heart reads as a bit cliched, I've phrased it differently here. I think it actually a gentle yet definite warning about something that can be very dominant and aggressive, the ego. So, try to be mindful of arrogance and entitlement, of wanting to appear a certain way through a chosen approach. Shadow aspects of the ego showing up in power dynamics, so perhaps self-importance, superiority, and competing for these. There's deception inherent in these characteristics, whether acting from or on the receiving end of them. Italicized. Follow heart because it will not lie. What's felt is information that'll guide and could be trying to serve movement away from something potentially harmful or unhealthy. Possibly to stop action being taken from within that and from stepping into those traits in the first place. Such reiteration suggests that potential for jeopardizing something is very possible. Showing up in the world in that shadow ego vibe, even if that's how you've operated thus far with success, doesn't seem to be the way to continue. Perhaps it won't bring the familiar success. A much bigger collective shift is bringing a balance in. Right. Shared ego bullshit is likely going to be perceived for what it is much more easily, and importantly, italics again, perceived by people and in situations where it's going to be the most impactful. Ego shade could have been flexed 1,000 times before without much consequence, but there's something about doing it now-ish, stay open with the timing, is to do it with precisely the personal situation where it will be most impactful for the one flexing the ego shade. And it'll be in order to make them understand something about those ego tendencies. Any warning aspect is perhaps to reduce any possible damage that could be caused and to try and allow for a smoother experience if there is something more difficult to see within this part of ourselves. Otherwise, rude awakenings kind of one, and likely in relation to something cared for, because it's hard. If you're on the receiving end of someone else's ego shade, no matter how well it's masked or fronted, that was really important. The heart is going to be what indicates that something isn't right. What's felt will enable you to see through any shit, and perceiving it protects you from it. It's like a fucking massive cosmic ego check. The cards and their messages, if repeatedly and gently advised to consider how you step. The guidance all along has been to step with heart so the ego can't jeopardize it. Peace. And that is, like, I published that on the 18th of March 2024, so that's nearly a year to the day. And it was around the time of the new moon in Pisces. So everything there. So what I think is going on here in this message is I think this hunter, this is that idea of springing forth like the start of something, setting out on a particular journey or a particular task, right? It's like the setting out to do that. There's a kind of action, an active principle that is implied here. The hunter kind of goes out and gets, doesn't he? Or they go out and get. So what I'm kind of thinking, feeling, is that as a kind of I was feeling like a bit of ambiguity with this card, which I think is because they're here communicating different things, so ambiguous, right? It was hard to kind of say really specifically what it represents. It's like it represents a few different things, so there's just ambiguity in it anyway because of that. But there was also this kind of sense of ambivalence as well, in like mixed feelings, like not really sure about how to take them, how to view them. So it was going back, it was kind of taking me back to that message about following the heart, right? Because the hunter's looking at this beloved energy here. So there's an idea of like something in the past. I think this is where Back to the Future is coming in. Something in the past, like a decision or a choice, a course of action in the past has set on a particular course, and there's now a point in that where action and motion and this idea of pursuit are being highlighted. It's like the time, the seasons have changed, the time is here for switching up the energy a bit, yeah. So. Yeah, it was really, there were a lot of little kind of pulls and threads about previous readings that I've done, like the ones on YouTube as well. I don't know if it's necessary to mention them all. There was just, I suppose what I'm saying is there was this sense of culmination, like a point where there's been a coming together of something, like maybe more in the sense of internally, you know, like maybe a sort of alignment with the heart and the mind, the balance there. So following the heart and then using the mind to figure out how to pursue something, right? Pursuit. But the perseverance thing has come back in pretty hard. Pretty hard. Because it's this guy, this luminous warrior, which in the previous reading was coming through as the soul of an old shogun, delivering a message about wealth and skills and abilities, talents, bit of craft, you know, skill at making things, actually. But what these energies are communicating today is like the hunter's journey. The hunter's on a journey to find the others. And this was coming through like cross my heart, right? Like a promise. Like a promise. Cross my heart, promise. I don't know if the hunter is promising, right? He will. Because this was really, you know, when I sat with it, it was very quiet. It's very quiet because hunter, right? So there's this idea of being on the down low, in a kind of stealthy way, right? Because that's what's necessary, some degree of stealth. But there is this, so like I've already said, that idea of active pursuit, but with awareness. So that, right, maybe it is like the heart is aligned with the mind, is aligned with the heart. They are in agreement, so the pursuit can start. The pursuit. I think that's maybe why I was feeling a bit ambivalent, because I suppose a hunter energy can have negative connotations, right? So I was maybe picking up on some some ambivalence about the idea of pursuit generally, like pursuit, but active pursuit with awareness. Got a single fixed gaze, so it's that idea of understanding and having a really kind of clear awareness of what it is that's wanted, what's being moved towards, which is why the stealth is necessary, I think, right? The stealth is necessary to gain ground, Mary, gain ground with it. And I've written deep concentration in capital letters because that came up in the previous reading as well. So it mentioned types of people, and there's something about types of people who have the capability, they could concentrate very deeply in some way. And there's something about the energy and the mental space that puts you in as well that's very important. Like, because if you can deeply concentrate, it's deep focus, isn't it? It's so yeah, and like determination. But then I've sort of underlined like the power with those things. So the power of quietude, of being quiet, right? The power of being on the down low. Power of awareness. The power of having a kind of single fixed gaze, like suppose kind of knowing what it is and kind of not backing down from that, right? Standing ground. So the power with these, this is part of the hunter's wealth, okay? That's been a consistent thread through recent readings as well. It's because I think I've been learning about the economy. In terms of the economy in which we live, and money and assets and finances and things like that. And alongside me learning about the economy, which has been an eye-opener, very informative, and is very valuable to me, right? Very valuable, very appreciative of receiving that information. But the cards, almost sort of like in an interplay, have been like, yes, wealth, money and assets and land and all of those things, because they're important, because living in that system. But they're like, right, but the other assets, the other wealth, which is very much talking about like people's innate, these qualities that people have that can't be bought, can't be sold, can't be taken away. So it's saying here, the power, this is part of the hunter's wealth, the fact that they're stealthy and they can keep this like really deeply concentrated single focus. They're very determined. There's also something about risk-taking here, but like the idea of calculated risk. So it's that stealth again, isn't it? So somebody who takes risks, calculated risks, yeah. Or it's the energy of that itself. But the other thing, so the authors of this card, all of that was from my meditation. The authors of this card write, not taking more than what is needed. And they're talking about like in hunter-gatherer times, right? How a hunter would go out and they get something. They'd make one kill and the kill would be for the entire village. And it was in hunter-gatherer times. The gatherer is here as well. Forgot to mention that. Hunter. hunter and gatherer, because there's a synonymous thing with these two energies, right? Synonymous with one another. So it's interesting. So this one, not taking more than what is needed. This one sees bounty where only others see barren soil, where others see only barren soil. That's what's written about this one. So that's important, isn't it? There's an interplay between these two energies as well. Okay, the hunter. I hope I said about making a brew at the beginning of this. Yeah, so I've written risk-taking to get the prize. To get the prize, a risk has to be taken. That's what it's saying to me. To get the prize, a risk has to be taken. Taking a risk to pursue. But calculated risk, right? And it's got something to do with following the heart. So, right, I've already mentioned perseverance, but persistence and perseverance came through here. Which they are defined differently. They mean quite similar things. But persistence is the fact of continuing in an opinion or course of action in spite of difficulty or opposition. So what I was saying as well about following your heart, it's not a fucking easy thing to do, as cheesy as the phrase might sound. It's not easy to do. It's actually very challenging. A lot of people don't do it. That's why the ego was highlighted as well, right? A lot of people are led by their ego, right? We have to, I think, quite actively kind of break that down for ourselves. So it can be hard to get into the energy and the space, the maturity, the alignment to actually follow your heart, yeah? But what I actually kind of understood personally about that is the idea of kind of being true to yourself, right? Being true to yourself, which if you're doing that, you are going to meet up with resistance from different corners, because you're being true to yourself. Yeah, you're not kind of bound to other people's projections or ideas or beliefs. You're being true to yourself. So it can actually be quite lonely. There can be lonely points following your heart. It can be challenging. Can wonder what the fuck. You know, and you don't necessarily get external validation for it. That's what I'm saying. Like, there can be periods of real loneliness. So it's a lot of work. It's like hunter energy, right? It's a lot of work to do it. So there's something, yeah, difficulty and opposition that you would get from staying true to yourself, right? Doing what's important. And perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Delay in achieving success. And I mentioned perseverance with those previous readings. I got something really beautiful about my grandma and granddad, actually, which, because there is a thing here with the lower world, and I think again I mentioned it in the previous reading with the Japanese shogun, about the very, very important honouring of ancestors and accepting the lessons and gifts of their experience, right? The experience they had when they were here. And so it was important. I saw an Irish wolfhound when I was on my way around to my folks' house yesterday, and you don't see them very often, Irish wolfhounds, like you do not. But I knew to pay attention to the Irish wolfhound because a few months ago, not that long ago, a few months, an Irish wolfhound appeared in my dream, and it was a very friendly Irish wolfhound that was very gentle and kind of friendly. So I knew when I saw the Irish wolfhound yesterday, I knew that there was a kind of message. So I was like paying attention. And when I got to my folks' house, my dad, I eat bread, I love bread, and I had some bread, and my dad told me a story about my grandpa Joe. Right, so my dad's dad, who I never met, he passed before I was born. He told me a story about some bread, right? Which that specific story about the bread is not why I'm talking about here. But basically, my granddad was a lead stoker in the Navy in the Second World War, and he was a prisoner of war for 4 years in Poland. And when they were released from the camp, he was then lost in Poland, or kind of stuck in Poland for about 6 months. And my grandma hadn't heard from him for those 4 years that he was in the camp, but also she had not heard from him in those months afterwards either. And he walked across huge kind of swaths of Poland, because in Poland there's a lot of forest and big sort of spaces like that are accessible to everybody. So there was a lot of perseverance, right, in Poland. And my grandma, who hadn't heard from her husband for nearly 5 years, she put an advert when she knew that camp had been released, been freed. She put an advert in the local newspaper. When I say local newspaper, it was kind of city, county-wide paper. Every single day until my granddad came home, until he was literally back at home, she would post the same advert, because he was lost, right? So she was just like, put it out over and over and over again until he was home. And then my dad said, then she burnt the ad. She burnt the advert, because she had him back. Yeah, he was back. So that all came through yesterday. It was the message of the Irish wolfhound, because there's something about a military leader like a shogun coming through in a message to talk really about kind of the importance of craft and making things and that wealth and those abilities that people have, right? Which is perhaps not what folks would expect a shogun to be talking about, perhaps. And the thing about what I'm saying about my grandma and granddad here is that it's probably quite recognisable to people about perseverance in those circumstances. As you know, my granddad in a war camp and then having to kind of find his way through Poland as a free man. It's all very challenging stuff, right? But the thing that is perhaps harder, or just maybe, or it just wants to sort of be said here, is when my grandma was putting those adverts in the paper after not seeing her husband for years and years and years, her kind of rational mind, what she was perhaps, what beliefs were around her about what had happened to my granddad and whether or not he was alive, perhaps, weren't the thing that was fueling the putting the advert in the paper to find a husband. It was the heart. The heart would have been the one powering that. Right, the mind might have written the advert and gone to the shop and put it in doing that, but that's wanting to be made. My granddad's coming through saying that. Don't feel silly about saying it, because people who have been through hardships like that, right, simple things. So I, in this modern time, might, think, oh, it's a bit trite, or it's a bit cheesy, or it's a bit meaningless saying to people like, follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart. But follow your heart, it's like, it's really important, right? That's why my granddad and grandma are reminding me so I can, right? Because I make videos talking about these things. So, okay. So the next card out was the Soul Retrieval. And this was in the previous reading as well. So there was this idea of like butterfly effect. Again, that was mentioned. Also the Jinn particle, which I don't think I'm going to go into hugely here, but this was communicating like that idea of something set in motion at a previous point in time. So that took me back to those old readings as well. And it's this idea of, did I mention it? The idea of maybe like a choice or a particular course of action, something that was done at a previous point in time, has now aligned, has now got someone in position to go after what it is they've got their sights on, right? Whatever that single fixed gaze and deep concentration is regarding, what it's towards, which I think is this. Okay. But I made an interesting typo there, and so Orion came in, which is a constellation, but Orion was, in Greek mythology, was a giant hunter. He was a giant hunter. There might be something about the direction northeast as well, because Orion's belt, the 3 stars that are in a straight line, Orion's belt, I think that's northeast. Something about the zodiac of Taurus as well. I think it's next to the zodiac of Taurus. There might be something about Taurian energy particularly that's important as well. Taurus is ruled by Venus, who Venus is the heart, yeah, goddess of love. Yes, I've written the hunter was set in motion at a previous point in time. So it doesn't have to be going back like years or whatever. I don't know, discernment, right? The hunter would have discernment. But it's something that's previously been set in motion. It's motion that originates from some point in the past. Something about heart and gut as well. So I've got this lightning card coming up. Heart and gut and mind, like this alignment, right? That's what I said about there's been like a kind of coming together, but it feels like it's internal, like an internal alignment. And now it's spring, the motion can commence or something. And because there's this idea, right, this was when The Power of Soul, which is a song by Idris Muhammad, right? Power of Soul, it's like an instrumental song. That came in here, so it's saying it's really fucking powerful stuff. Really powerful stuff. As with this, which is it's the idea of wealth again, isn't it? Powerful. All of those traits that a hunter has are kind of their power, and that power is wealth. It's that innate wealth. But there was also that idea of energetic insignia again, because it comes up so much. So it's that idea of the hunter. What was it? What did I say? The hunter, crossed my heart, a promise made. On a journey to find the others. With this kind of energetic insignia, because it's like this blue. I've just shown the lightning card, which is the blue, and then it's here. It's in this journey card. It's part of this promise. It's part of this one here also. And it's in this gatherer energy. It's like they've all got it. It's even in this world. It's kind of, it's everywhere. It's like imprinted. Okay, excuse me, sorry. Right, interestingly as well though, with the Orion. So Orion was a giant hunter. There's different kind of myths and legends or different versions, but in one of them he was accidentally slain by the goddess Artemis, who's the goddess of the hunt, right? She's the goddess of the hunt and also the wilderness and nature, vegetation, wild animals. She's also the goddess of transitions, right? You could say that this is, because I'm talking about motion, there's something, and journey, something about transitioning from one phase into the next, from one stage of your life into the next, transitioning to a new connection perhaps. So Artemis is also a protector of women and children. She's goddess of childbirth as well. Birth, spring. We are all the children of the earth. Yes, a child. Protector of women and children. In later times, she was associated with Selene, the personification of the moon. That's important. just because the moon always. There were also some Artemis, there's an Artemis aircraft. So NASA have these Artemis missions, and that's about, they're about sort of, I think, like keeping a presence or maintaining a presence on the moon. I think that's what they're trying to do. Those lunar missions, the point of them. But it's that idea again of journey, right? Of mission, of having a focus and taking the action and going for it. Okay, it's all of that. Yeah, and I just, in my meditation, it was like the wings of the butterfly just had one very strong, distinct flap. Just one distinct flap. That was put in, that could be an indication or signal. Which, hang on. Oh, I'm all over the place with it. I was with this card, I was tapping. I was sat meditating and I was tapping like this. Like a lot. Just not realised I was doing it. So that might mean, well, I've written here Sound of the Hunter. Sound of the Hunter. But there's something there about like rhythm and drumming as well, because of that thing about music. Journey, and in shamanic journeys, the shaman follows the beat of a drum, right? Follows the beat of the drum. So they get to the other spaces, so they get to the other worlds. And when it's time for them to return, there is a change in the drummings, and that's the signal to return. It's really important as well, you know, so that I get lost. It's like a mechanism that enables them to return. It's the change in the tempo of the drumming. It's really important. So yeah, it was an indication of arrival or return or a particular stage of the journey, which I said right at the beginning, it's like it's spring, it's time for a particular phase or part of the journey to commence. So that's, oh right, okay, that's what the drum beat was kind of saying. Okay. Popping ears. Let's have some water. Okay. Right, yeah. Okay. That's that one, the beloved. The beloved. So I wrote with this, the great leveler. The great leveler, the return of the heart. And it was something that I mentioned in a reading quite recently. Was it the Tower and the Star? I'm feeling inclined to say that it was that one because I've just been talking about Orion's belt and the stars. But I said, like, what one speaks tells the structure of the heart. So I was reminded of that again. But then it was really interesting because in meditation, it just like, it started, I mean, it brought in another tune as well, which is the tune I just absolutely rinsed, to be fair. It's like an old disco funk tune called Love Sensation by an artist called Lolita Holloway. Absolute banger. I listen to it a lot. But it was this it was looking like the dust cap on a speaker, you know, and it just starts vibrating. A vibrating speaker dust cap was how this started to come through. So then I was looking into like the components of a speaker. But it was that idea of like beats and tempo again, right, that I've been talking about just then, with the tapping on the card and the drum beat of following a drum beat. And all the music in the reading, it's like beats, tempo, it's like heartbeat, I suppose, as well. Put hearts back on the scene. Hearts back on the scene. Which I think again was just because it was talking about those old readings and it was that message. It was like, oh, it's that again, yeah. It's that. So there's also an idea of, or an indication of, that it's like waves and cycles, yeah. So when I was doing those readings a couple of years ago, it was urging people to follow the heart, which, regardless of my readings or not, some people will have done, right? Across the world, people have been following the heart. Others will have not been following the heart. So because some people followed the heart back then, it's like there is some kind of prize for it, which it is. It's like eyes on the prize with the hunter, right? I think I just like, I don't really want to equate a person with like the idea of being a trophy, but it's not that. It's not that. It's not that. It's like getting a kind of reward for hard work, the hard work of following the heart. So there's a reward, some kind of reward. That's where the single fixed gaze is, I think. Okay. Or the reward is this. The reward is this. Love's the great leveler. So the lyrics of that Power in Love song as well, because he's singing about don't need money, don't need fame, don't need no credit cards to ride this train, innit? Look at the lyrics of that song. So the great leveler. Speaker components, I don't know whether I'm going to go into all that. I think it was the idea that something is vibrating and sending out electrical signals like a speaker does. How a speaker works with its coils and its magnets. Sending out electrical signals that are converted into motion, which is the vibration of the speaker. The vibration of the speaker is what this one is following. Okay? There's a bit of a two-way thing going on here, I think. The hunter and the gatherer. The hunter and the gatherer. There's something. The hunter is following a drum beat. Apply that how you need to, right? Following a drum beat and has this singular kind of focus and intent. Okay, and then over here there's like a vibrating like boombox of electrical signals. That's that same idea. If it's like a beat, it's a tempo, it's something to follow. So it's like following the heart, the heartbeats. Heartbeat. Okay. There was also something, there was something about like trying to pull through, like trying to pull someone through, but it was, I didn't really kind of, I'm just going to mentioning it because it's a bit, it didn't really come through as a main part of the message. It's kind of there, but well, I suppose it did, because it's that idea of like Back to the Future, where he has to go back, doesn't he, 30 years in time, to make sure that his parents actually get together so he's born or whatever. And I'm talking here about things that have previously been set in motion, so that the hands trying to pull someone through, it was almost like somebody at a future point in time is trying to pull someone through to meet them. Because, yeah. It was communicating, like trying to pull someone through. Okay, I'm gonna leave that because I'm not sure I'm talking about it in a way that does it justice. I'll leave that. It also came through with an offering, like the bounty. Oh, the bounty being offered, maybe, because all of the bounty in this card. Maybe, so it's a bounty that's being offered, but then so it's like it's hitting the right note, isn't it? It's hitting the right note because there's this pursuit of it. But stealth. Okay. Yeah, and the authors of this book say recognition of spirit in another and moving towards spirit through another. So both of those things, it's very beautiful. When you recognize the beloved in another, you call forth their highest and purest nature. And then I've put the hunter has been called forth. Oh, so someone has recognized the beloved in them, and so it is called forth their highest and purest nature. And that, it's that energy that they're moving in, right? That's the energy in which they pursue. Highest and purest nature. So the lightning, was the blue of that insignia. So there was something about that signature, about recognizing people who have the same energetic imprint. It's like a soul insignia was as well how it was coming through. Oh, yes. So the blue, it was that. I've already showed all the cards with the blue, so yeah. Could be beloveds then, couldn't it? Could be a new kind of group, a new community perhaps, the beloveds. But there's still this hunter-gatherer kind of synonymous thing going on here. Right. Lightning. Yeah, right, shit, man, because so the 30, 3 plus 0 is 3, and the 2 and the 1 here is a 3, which, that's because 3 was emphasised in that, no, is it? In that Tower and Star reading. It was like the third thing's the fucking thing. And now it's this 3. And also power of love. Power, love. Is the third thing love? Is the third thing love? Love. I've written the energy that powers the speaker, which I've just said, haven't I, about soul insignia. It's like the power of soul powers the speaker. So it's like, is it like the soul powers the heart? that what someone speaks shows the structure of their heart again. Don't know. Oh, there's something. I also said another reading, like, something's coming. Something's coming. Something's coming. I'm a bit all over the place, back and forth between the cards here. So discern where you are in the reading, what energy of it is yours, what you're moving into, what's cracking. I feel like discernment is very important. It's another message of this one. Oh, right. And so literally a speaker. So I've been talking about music, but I'm also then talking about spoken in the sense of words as well, yeah? To speak has a lot of power, or to speak something in particular has a lot of power. So me talking about those old readings and saying, like, follow the heart. Now it felt kind of necessary for me to read out that previous message that I'd written. But also that idea of, like, calculated risk and stealth. So perhaps, and then I was saying, like, they're quiet, they're on the down low. But for a reason, right? There's a purpose. There's a purpose to that with the hunter. So it could be talking about something that this one is going to speak, wants to speak, will speak. It's talking about, like, it has a lot of power. Has a lot of power. But I've also, the word potentiality really stood out to me as well. Potentiality. But I've also put, and it's that idea of, like, interplay or did I say back and forth? To speak something could be useful to the hunter. Could give the hunter some horsepower. He's not on a horse, but you know what I'm saying? To speak something could be useful to the hunter. Something about, maybe something about what I've said about my grandma and granddad, actually. I don't know why. Feeling to say that again here. Is that's obviously a personal story, but there is a reason, right, that I've felt to share that here. So I feel, actually, to say there's something really about not underestimating the importance of simplicity, or just, you know, like I was saying, that it sounded a bit cheesy to say, like, follow your heart, but it's like, don't underestimate the power of that. Oh, powers the vibration. In here, back here, powers the vibration, the charge. Okay, the thing about pulling through, some previous event, choice, decision is the direct cause of a future event. It's this idea of pulling through. Oh, it's a bit abstract though, isn't it? Some previous event, choice or decision is the direct cause of a future event. So because something was done, decided, whatever, it now means, it's that idea of, it is that. Somebody has followed their heart in the past at a previous point with something. It might have been challenging, right? Just because we follow our heart doesn't mean that we land in sunshine and rainbows and it's like that all the time. It just means you're following your heart. It's difficult, right? But somebody has done it, or a group of people, a wave of people did it in a previous cycle with something, and now there is this idea of like, because of that, there is a reward that the universe and possibly like ancestors are trying to kind of point out, or this is really important. It's like, stay in your heart, continue to do that. The lower world, which I've showed here. This, yeah, so this one. Did I mention the Jinn particle? I think I mentioned it, didn't I? Okay, I'm gonna say what it is, and then you have the information. Okay, the Jinn particle. Jinn, spelled D-J-I-N-N. It's like a metaphysical concept, right? It's like metaphysical quantum mechanical concept. It's not a physical particle. But that, right, so it relates to like time travel and paradoxes, which is the Back to the Future. So in the context of time travel, the Jinn particle is used to describe a scenario where a future event is the cause of a past event, which in turn becomes the cause of the future event, forming a self-sustaining loop in time. Okay, that's the concept of the Jinn particle. It's like a connect the freaking dots, isn't it? Right, so this lower world, this actually, I got the definition for supernatural, because like, yeah, supernatural, and there are a couple, right? So in terms of like a manifestation or an event, it's supernatural is attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or laws of nature. There's a reason why I've just mentioned the Jinn particle there again. Some metaphysical, quantum mechanics, right? Things that aren't understood through science. Might be understood through the heart though. Gonna keep going back there. Okay, but actually it was the second meaning of the word that was kind of more emphasized to me. And supernatural means unnaturally or extraordinarily great. And then I've written in capital letters, because I had a bit of a whisper to do so, is like breathtaking. So this was actually kind of symbolizing or communicating like something breathtaking that can't be understood by the rational mind, to have your breath taken away, metaphorically. You need to be in your heart, right? It's your heart. That sense of awe, wonder, like love, man. Right? Which can't be explained by science, can it? Can't be explained by the rational mind. Unnaturally or extraordinarily great, like a breathtaking love. It's coming, man, get ready. It's coming, in the sense of, however, if it's arriving at you or at your door, or you're taking yourself to it, or it's like a kind of a collision. I mentioned that before as well. Okay. Yeah. So much I feel like I don't get through. I was like a bit all over the place with that, so I hope it's at least made some kind of sense. I am gonna pull a card from the rune deck, just see what it's saying. just see what it's saying. So, okay. Is there anything else that needs to be said here? Woo! Oh, that's quite a few. Okay, we'll take this one. Ah, returning light. Hell. Returning light. Let's put the glasses on for this. Beautiful bright child light. Oh, right, hang on, sorry. Beautiful bright child light, blighted by mighty Odin in fear of his fate. Hell refused Odin's request to return Baldur's light, aware that death is simply a parallel dimension to life. The idea of supernatural in that particular context, yeah. Welcome her corporeal truth. Raise hell to embrace life and return to the world your fullest light. Hell's disruption opens portals of divine reconstruction. Burn like hell, brightly. Yes! Yes! Yes, right? Yes. Let's keep saying yes. Got Butcher's broom on the bottom there. But brooms very generally kind of talk about clearance, like clearing energy. But that feels maybe like that's already happened, because clearing, that idea of like alignment and being on the path and having something clear in sight, clear and bright, right? It's like things have been cleared. That came up in another reading as well. Like clearing things that no longer served or suited, so space was created to let in what was wanted and needed. Okay, happy days. Burn like hell, baby. Okay, bless, take care, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoy your brew, your biscuits. Answers on a postcard if anybody can tell me what happened to dark chocolate bounties, because never ever fucking see them. Alright, peace, bless.